What's up, kings and queens? It's your boy Dan from Daft Previews, and I'm here to take you through the most comprehensive NBA player prop preview you are going to see. If it's your first time finding the channel, I'll let you know that I do this every single night. I share my screen, we go through Outlier, I take you through all the key players, their matchups, their form lines. I tell you what I like and I tell you what I don't, and I do all this to give you all the information to make the best bets possible. Now, sometimes this works for us, over 100 units profit so far this season, and sometimes it doesn't. I've had some pretty poor days as of late. Yesterday, somewhat average, 0.63 units profit, so barely a unit. But what happened in that day? Banchero, honestly, I read that game completely wrong. He got worse in both points and assists. He went the wrong way. I was expecting more. We backed Mo Wagner for another strong day, and he delivered, cashing his points plus rebounds. We also had a Mo Wagner value play, 10 points and 5 rebounds, and that cashed for us. Miles McBride, I took over in his PRA, which cashed at one point in the game. And then when the game was finished, there was a recount, and he lost a rebound. So that ended up being a loss. Took Tobias Harris rebounds, and that cashed very easily. LeBron James over his points prop. That didn't cash until the very last minute. And I took Jamal Murray on points again, and he failed to deliver again. The value plays, McBride and Murray, they didn't cash for me, but 0.63 units. We didn't lose any money, but then again, given the amount of time and effort that goes into this, you'd really love to see more profit than that. So hopefully we can dive in today, find some more bangers, and get some profitable picks out there. I haven't previewed the slate whatsoever. I'll be seeing all of these props for the very first time. I'll take a short list of these, do a thorough investigation. When I've decided my final picks, I'll share them in the pinned comment, but hopefully you guys are doing your own research, right? I show Outlier and how to use it. I strongly encourage you to sign up to Outlier using the free trial and the link in the video description below, because if you figure out how to use it, it'll make life much easier for you. What's that saying? I can give a man a fish, I'll feed you for today. If you teach a man how to fish, feed himself forever or some shit like that. But hopefully I'm feeding you guys. So check out Outlier, free 7-day trial in the video description below. If it doesn't work out for you, get rid of it. Simple as that. Now, we're kicking things off with the Phoenix Suns and the Minnesota Timberwolves first. But I will let you know, in about 30 minutes, I do have to duck off. I've got a basketball game of my own that I need to disappear to. You won't notice that I'm gone, but I'm going to disappear, come back in about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then continue recording. So if I appear different, or I'm tired, or this video is out later than it usually is, that is the reason why. So let's jump straight in. Let me share my screen. We're going through the Phoenix Suns, Minnesota Timberwolves first. Having a quick look at the lineup, we've got Grayson Allen and Kyle Anderson as game time decisions. Grayson Allen, I think he's got an ankle injury in this one, but all of the star players scheduled to play. Now, despite Minnesota absolutely blowing the lights out of the Phoenix Suns in the first game, the spread in this game is only Minnesota -3. So that huge game hasn't really impacted the line too much. Phoenix still predicted to keep this game close, and I think that's how I would see it. Kevin Durant was the only player for the Suns to play well. Everyone else was pretty poor. Whereas for Minnesota, they had strong performances all around. Conley was great. Towns was good. Edwards was elite. Rudy was strong. So hopefully we see a bit of balance in this one. No blowout, I predict and hope for. So some of these Phoenix Suns players can cash. But let's start off with some of these guys from Phoenix. We'll go through all their key player props. I'll take some note of the ones I like, and hopefully we can find some value in it. As always, I encourage you to share your picks in the comment section below. Let us know what you're taking. Give us the reason why, because you might find something that I haven't considered. So let's take a look. We'll start with Devin Booker, though. So Devin Booker is pretty poor in that first game. His line is 24.5, and he scored 18 points in that last game against Minnesota. He's covered this in 4 of his last 10. In head-to-head matchups against Minnesota, he's gone under in 3 consecutive games, 13, 23, and 18. So pretty poor. The Timberwolves are a good defensive team. Looking at a deeper dive into his stats, his minutes are trending upwards. So the minutes are there. His field goal attempts are quite low, 12, 16, and 16. But partly why they're so low, his percentages are awful, 25, 38, and 31. Now, Devin Booker is good enough to bounce back from this. And if he starts the game off better and he's shooting a better percentage, those field goal attempts are going to go up, and then he can eventually crush this line. Now, I'm not saying he is going to crush the line. I have no confidence in taking this bet on Devin Booker, but what I'm saying is he's more than capable of covering 24.5. In fact, on the season, he's covered this line at a 55% hit rate, 38 out of 69 games. So more than capable, potentially struggles against the Timberwolves. As of late, he hasn't been great, but he's well and truly good enough to cover this line. So I'm not saying to bet the over, but I wouldn't take the under any confidence. Looking at his assist prop, that line is at 6.5. 5 out of his last 10 games, he had 5 assists in that last game against the T-Wolves, and he's hit this in 3 out of his last 7 games against Minnesota. So 5 assists is not great. He only had 8 potential assists, which is quite low. If we look at his numbers on the season, averaging 6.9 assists per game, right? And he's getting 11.8 potential assists in order to get 6.9 assists. So what you would like to see in his recent trend or in head-to-head trends, you'd like to see, 11 at least potential assists. He only had 8 potential assists in that very last game. Minutes probably impacted because of the blowout, right? So he should play at least 40 minutes in a closer game, which should lead to more potential assists. But will it be enough potential assists to cover the 6.5? I don't know. The other angle is you can assume the Suns are probably going to shoot the ball better. And if they're shooting the ball better, that's also more assists for Devin Booker. But for all that to happen, you have to be of the belief that the Phoenix Suns are going to be better. They're going to shoot better. Devin Booker's going to take more shots, be more involved, create more shots. And then that's how the Booker line's cash. Now, I don't have a strong feeling on the D Book play. Let's have a quick look at his rebounds. And if I'm still not loving it, we'll move on to the next one. 3.5's the line. 2 of his last 10. Only had 2 rebounds in that last game against Minnesota. He had 7 rebound chances, though, but only secured 2, which is quite low. In head-to-head matchups, 4 of his last 7 against the T-Wolves. In those games, averaging 8.7 rebound chances. So I think his overall opportunities went there at minus 140. I wouldn't take that with too much confidence either. So, look, I think Devin Booker can cover his points line for sure. I'm just not man enough to take it. I've taken a few bets these playoffs where I thought I thought some players were going to bounce back. They should. I had a script in my mind that I thought would come true, and then it didn't. And the reason why I'm probably taking more of those angles is because just relying on data, recent form against the opponent, that's not strong enough anymore in these playoffs. So you have to dive a little bit deeper and understand how this game's going to go. For D Book, if I was being reckless, yeah, I'd bet the over. I'm leaning that way for sure. But based off what we've seen, I can't take that with any confidence. It's just a script in my mind. Now, someone who I do like to go over their points prop is Kevin Durant. Now, his recent form's not great. He did score 31 points in that last game against the T-Wolves, though. He's covered this line in 3 out of his last 10. Against the T-Wolves, and he covered in 2 out of his last 5. So that 31 points matches his season high against them. He played 38 minutes, the most he's played against the T-Wolves. And he had 17 field goal attempts, which is quite low, given the extra minutes that he had. If this game had been closer, he would have taken more than 20 shots. So he shot 65% from the field, which is amazing. He was crispy. 2 from 2 from deep, 7 from 9 from the line. Now, in a game that's expected to be a lot closer, you'd probably hope for Kevin Durant to get at least 40 minutes in this game. If we look at his filters for the year where Kevin Durant plays 40 minutes, what do we find? Played 40 minutes 14 times. He's only covered this line in 6 or 14 games. So those extra minutes don't necessarily equate to more points. He's shooting 48% in these games. 20.6 field goal attempts, though. A lot of these games he shot poorly, though. So that doesn't give us a really strong argument. I think the only reason why I'd be considering the KD over in points here is purely because, Anthony Edwards smoked him. Anthony Edwards said, Kevin Durant is my favorite player. So he kind of smoked him, spoke trash about him, and then complimented him at the same time. Kevin Durant is a competitor. I believe he's going to be fired up for this. And Kevin Durant in the playoffs is a different beast. And he locks in. He's more selfish, more aggressive. So the points prop is something I just can't ignore. I kind of want to throw a lot of this data away and just go with the narrative of Kevin Durant being an absolute beast, a dog. They lost game 1. Motivation should be running well high at the moment. So more minutes, more opportunities for KD. If he can get more than 20 shots, still shoot somewhat efficiently, I think he can cover the 26.5. But let's look at his other props. His assist prop is at 3.5. Now, he only had 1 assist in that last game against the T-Wolves, and fair enough. The Phoenix Suns, they shot the ball poorly, right? 3 of his last 10 games in head-to-head matchups against the T-Wolves, he's covered in 3 out of his last 5. His last 2 games against them only had 1 assist. But that last game against the T-Wolves, he had 7 potential assists. Now, if you're getting 7 potential assists and you're Kevin Durant, yeah, I'd say the line at 3.5 is probably just about right, to be honest. Looking at his season averages, 4.9 assists. So let's say 5 assists is his average on 9 potential assists. So yeah, at 7 potential assists, I think 3.5 is just about right, to be honest. So the line is quite sharp. Just because his recent form has been down, it doesn't mean he's going to go under or over here. It's I just feel like that line is spot on. I don't really feel like you get an edge on betting it. So looking at his rebound prop, that's at 6.5. 3 out of his last 10. 7 boards in that last game against Minnesota in head-to-head matches. 2 out of his last 5 games, averaging 6.2 rebounds. Now, he did have 11 rebound chances. That's the most rebound chances he's had in 5 games against the T-Wolves. If we look at how he's gone on the season, where he plays at least 40 minutes, because I'm expecting a lot of game time here for KD, he's hit this rebound line in 10 of 14 games, which is great. 7.1 rebounds as an average. So, yeah, I feel like the 6.5 is just about right. You know, at 7.5, I would not take, but the 6.5, I am strongly considering it. You know, a 71% hit rate if he plays at least 40 minutes. I feel like this game is going to be a little bit closer. And if I'm wrong about that, a lot of my bets could potentially lose, which is why I'm trying to only pick 2 players per game. Because if I have read the script wrong, painfully expensive exercise. But I don't mind the rebounds here for Kevin Durant. We could look at 30 points, 7 rebounds for a same game parlay here for Kevin Durant. Who knows? We'll see where I land. But I like this enough to put it on my short list. Let's take Kevin Durant's rebounds. What else have we got? Bradley Beal, where you hiding, my boy? Here he is. 17.5 points is his line. He's cashed this in 5 of his last 10. Only had 15 points in that last game against the T-Wolves. 37 minutes. Only shot the ball 10 times, though. In head-to-head matchups, this is what you see. Lots of ups and downs. 14, 36, and then 15 points against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I've just checked the box score in that last game for Bradley Beal. Only scored 15 points. And I think part of the challenge that he found in that last game is 44% of the time he had the ball, Anthony Edwards was the defender. In that time where Anthony Edwards defended Bradley Beal only scored 3 points. He only took 1 shot that whole time. Almost 6 minutes worth of Anthony Edwards defending Bradley Beal when he has possession of the ball. He only took 1 shot. He made that 1 shot, but that was the only shot that he took. All the other players who defended him for much less time, he was more aggressive, took a lot more shots. So with Anthony Edwards as the primary defender, it might be a little bit difficult to take Bradley Beal's over on points here. So I'm a little bit hesitant to take that. Looking to Kevin Durant as well. And for Kevin Durant, he had Karl Anthony Towns and Jaden McDaniels. There's nobody in this league that's going to stop Kevin Durant from shooting that ball. So whereas someone like Bradley Beal definitely can be slowed down. So I'd be a little bit hesitant to take the points prop. He shot a solid percentage, but he didn't get too many shots up. So he's been clamped up. But let's look at his assist prop. Let's see what we can find in this. He had 6 assists in that game, that last one against Minnesota, which is great. And the Phoenix Suns got absolutely blown out. We're looking at odds at minus 148. He's hit in 5 of his last 10. He had 10 potential assists in that game, and he's covered this in 2 out of his last 3 games against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I don't mind the assist prop here for for Bradley Beal. I think you can only get better at this, given that you would expect the Phoenix Suns to have a better offensive game. Someone like Bradley Beal, I'm not expecting a much better offensive game if Anthony Edwards is going to be the primary defender. So the assist prop for Bradley Beal, I don't mind. The odds, minus 148, they are not great whatsoever. I might consider the 5.5 at plus 135. So you're getting plus money for him to get 6 assists again. Now, on the season, he only hit this at a 41% hit rate, which is not great. So I'm a little bit hesitant. He averaged 5 assists on the season, 8.2 potential assists, though. If we factor in that, you know, if the game's closer, I'd expect Bradley Beal to play about 40 minutes. So filtering games where he played over 40 minutes, there's only one of those this season, and that was against the Clippers. So we don't have a great sample size for Bradley Beal getting extended minutes. If we push it to games where he's had over 35 minutes, 15 of 28, so it's not overly convincing, to be honest. But the 4.5, yeah, I definitely like that. If you're playing those apps where you just have to pick over-under, Bradley Beal's assist prop, that's not a bad play, to be honest, because I feel like the potential assists will still continue to be there. And the Phoenix Suns, I would expect to shoot better than they did in that last game. So Bradley Beal assists, get around it. Looking at his rebound prop, though, what do we see? 4.5's the line, 6 of his last 10. Only had 2 rebounds in that last game, only 5 potential rebounds. Looking in head-to-head matchups, he's covered in 1 of 3 against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, yeah, will the Phoenix Suns get better defensively? I can't guarantee that, The Minnesota Timberwolves probably projected to score what? Maybe 110, 105 points. So you expect some improvement in Phoenix's defense, but not enough to warrant a lot more rebounds for Bradley Beal. So I'd be a little bit hesitant to take that. Maybe if we have a look at who Bradley Beal is defending the most of the time, it'll give us an idea of whether he's going to be available. Now, if we look at where he was on the defensive side of the ball, he defended Anthony Edwards 48% of the time, and Anthony Edwards was cooking him. Well, not just him, but he was cooking everyone, Anthony Edwards. But yeah, so Bradley Beal spends a lot of time on Ant Edwards. And to be honest, Bradley Beal did a pretty good job. I'm just looking through the data now. When he defended Anthony Edwards shot the ball 8 times. He only shot 37% from the field, and he also had 4 turnovers and only 2 assists with Bradley Beal as the primary defender. But what that means is Bradley Beal, if he's spending a lot of time on Anthony Edwards, he's probably not getting too many rebounds. So, not loving the rebound prop here for Bradley Beal. It makes sense why he went under in the last game. He might see an improvement, but the 4.5, I'm still not a fan of that. So if you like unders, you can probably take a look at that. But honestly, if you're somebody who likes betting on unders, you shouldn't be taking pics of some guy off YouTube. You'd know, you do your own data because you're a sicko if you like that. But at the same time, this is the playoffs. I think more players are likely to go under than they are to go over. So it's not a bad strategy. Don't let me deter you. Let's have a look at my man Yusuf Nurkic. So Yusuf Nurkic, his points line is 8.5. He had 9 points in that last game against Minnesota. He's cashed in 4 out of his last 10. In head-to-head matchups against the Timberwolves, in 4 games this year, 3, 11, 6, and 9 points. So he covered at a 50% hit rate. He only got 26 minutes of game time in that last one, which is not an increase over what he was getting during the regular season. If anything, it's a decrease. There are a lot of games where he played over 30 minutes. So Yusuf Nurkic didn't get too much game time or opportunity. 9 points. He shot the ball 6 times and he made 4 buckets. So he shot a pretty good percentage. But unless we can predict an uplift in his usage rate or shot attempts, I wouldn't be going near his points prop. Now, interested to look at his assist prop because I did bet his assist prop last time. 4.5. He only had 1, which was heartbreaking because he has been covering that great. So of his last 10, 3 consecutive games against the Timberwolves. That's the type of strategy I was looking at in the regular season to give me some confidence. In the playoffs, this crazy shit be happening. Now, he only had 1 assist. What happened? He only had 4 potential assists, which is much lower than what he was averaging throughout the year. Let's have a look at the season stats. 4.8 potential stats, assists in his last 10 games, 6.2 potential assists, but in that last game against the T-Wolves, only had 4 potential assists. So as the defenses improve in these playoffs, I think more of the playmaking duties are going to be done by your primary ball handlers. Your role players will probably see a lower usage rate. So Yusuf Nurkic not on there to create. So reflecting back, a bad read from me. Now, would I back him under 3.5 assists for plus money? No, I'm not saying that because sometimes some wacky bullshit can happen. But we've seen in a lot of games so far in these playoffs, game 1 has oftentimes reflected itself in game 2. So I made a few bets yesterday expecting an adjustment or a turnaround or a bounce back. And in a lot of those instances, it did not happen. So I don't have a read here on Yusuf Nurkic assists. The only opinion I have on the game is that the Suns should be better. The game should be closer. I feel Bradley Beal and Booker probably should be more aggressive based off how everything went. They can't rely on KD. KD should continue to kill. And Anthony Edwards. I don't know if the Phoenix Suns could do more. They could put more Bradley Beal on him, but I don't know if they honestly could do more to stop Anthony Edwards because when he went off in the third quarter, I don't think there's anything you could do to defend that. But let's look at Yusuf Nurkic's rebound prop. 10.5. He's cashed in 3 out of his last 10, which is not great. He's only cashed in 1 of 4 games against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, one of those games, 15 boards. The other 3 games, 5, 5, and 4 rebounds. Now, for this particular play, a lot of the data is telling me to take the under.
better hit rate, tough competition, tough matchup. But what I would need to do is investigate this lone game where he got 15 rebounds, because I don't know what the hell is up with that. Looking at his rebound chances in that game, he had 23 rebound chances, 87 to 97. So a very low scoring game. That was a home game in Phoenix. So I don't know if that means anything. But these games at Minnesota, Yusuf Nurkic has struggled on the board. So look, I might just take this down on my short list. He's under 10.5. Search it a little bit further to figure out why it's so low. Because for someone to not rebound so well against a particular team and to still have a line this high, I guess the sports books are expecting something. I think he'll get more than 4 rebounds, that's for sure. But can he get 10.5 is the question. Because if you're betting on Yusuf Nurkic, you better be right, because it's a pretty much a no sweat bet with Nurkic. He's either not getting close or he's blowing it out of the water. So I wasn't sweating his assists. I knew I was wrong early. But let's see. I've got it on my short list. I don't have a strong opinion on it yet, but you'd be surprised what you can find out when you dive deeper into the numbers. Now let's have a look at Anthony Edwards. Now, Anthony Edwards, his point line is 25.5. I think I didn't call him out, but I might have thrown a little bit of shade on the last preview on Anthony Edwards. I was pretty much calling out how he has struggled against the Phoenix Suns. Now he's cashed this line in 3 of 8 games against them. And it looks like Anthony Edwards, very similar vein of the no sweat play. He's either crushing this line or he's not getting close to it. So what was different about the last game? He didn't play more minutes than he normally would. 35.8 minutes. Blowout win, so probably didn't need to play any more minutes. Looking at his field goals, despite playing lower minutes, 24 shots. He shot 14 from 24, 4 from 8 from deep, and he only got to the line once, shooting 2 free throws. We look at the Suns defensively. They have struggled against the backcourt all year. They haven't been good defending guards, especially like Anthony Edwards. If we look at who spent a lot of time defending Anthony Edwards, I'm just breaking down the numbers now. Bradley Beal was his primary defender, followed by Royce O'Neal, and then Devin Booker, and then he even saw a bit of Kevin Durant. So they're the 4 primary defenders who defended him. He scored 7 points in Bradley Beal, but he only shot 37% from the field with a lot of turnovers. Up against Royce O'Neal, he shot 50% from the field, had 3 assists, no turnovers. So he was somewhat effective in that matchup. And against Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards was smoking him 57% from the field. He scored 9 points in in less than 2 minutes against Devin Booker. He had 2 assists as well. So he was smoking D-Book. And then up against Kevin Durant, his favorite player, he shot 3 from 6 from the field, 50%. He scored 8 points, hit 2 3-pointers. So Anthony Edwards, it looks like the best defender. Bradley Beal probably had the most success on him, and Bradley Beal was defending him almost half of the time. So given the amount of switching and things that occur, I don't think there's too much that the Phoenix Suns could do differently on Anthony Edwards. So yeah, I could honestly see him going over this line as much as I hate it. I don't like betting on Anthony Edwards because he is extremely consistent, but this is the playoffs. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look into Anthony Edwards, just his playoff data. I know he did quite well in a lot of games last year in the playoffs. He's maturing, of course, so the only way is up. Home game once again. I don't mind this. In the first game at Phoenix, I'd probably look at an under for Anthony Edwards. I'm not too sure. That's just a gut feel. But for now, the over in his points, I can't see why not, because the Suns, I think their offense should get better. Defensively, I don't know if there's more that they could be doing. Now, looking at his assist prop, that line's at 5.5. He had 6 assists in that last game against the Phoenix Suns. 4 of his last 10, and he's covered in 3 out of his last 8 against Phoenix. Now, 9 potential assists. I think this bet probably has more upside than his points prop. 6 assists from 9 potential assists is a pretty high ratio, which means he was either finding Rudy or the Timberwolves were making their shots, right? Now, Anthony Edwards, the argument could be made that he could see more potential assists if the Phoenix Suns go out and say, we're not letting him play a one-on-one. We're going to double him. We're going to force the ball out of his hands, which, it makes sense in my opinion, which improves his opportunity to get assists, but it also decreases his opportunities to score. So that's why oftentimes for players with high usage rate, ability to create for others and score points, a lot of the time I take the points plus assists, because if Anthony Edwards, only scores 23 points in this game, It doesn't get close to the 33 he had in the last game, but he managed to have a great assist game, 7 or 8 assists, which is more than capable of doing. Then at least we could cover this line. I need to check the numbers, but I feel like he's going to be heavily involved in their offense. The opportunity to get points and assists are there. So a lot of the time I play these in tandem, points plus assists, especially for the guards, combo guards and such. So yeah, I don't hate that. Looking at his rebound prop, though, that is at 5.5. He's cashed this in 5 of his last 10 games. 9 rebounds against the Phoenix Suns in that last one. He's now covered in 5 out of his last 8. I did have his rebounds as a lean after that last game. I think the line was at 4.5, though. So that's moved up 1 full rebound to 5.5 minus 105. But look, check it out. 14 potential rebound chances, which is quite high. On the season, he averaged 5.5 rebounds per game, pretty much where this line is. His average rebound chances, 9.1. So the fact that he got 14 rebound chances in that first game is pretty wild. Now, the defense for both teams you would expect to be great. It is the playoffs. So naturally, you should expect more rebound chances for most players. If I think about the different series, yeah, we're definitely seeing the rebounds are up in the Lakers series. We know they're well up in the Cleveland Magic series. There's rebounds everywhere. Knicks, a lot of rebounds in that one. The Mavs Clippers, not so much. Haven't seen too many extra rebound opportunities, but that game was wild. But Bucks Pacers, that's a fast-paced game anyway. That was a weird game as well. But for a lot of the other series which are competitive, the rebound chances are definitely up. It's not because people are getting worse at playing offense. The defense within the league has definitely improved. So the rebound prop, I don't mind this as well for Anthony Edwards. So look, I might have talked myself into just taking Anthony Edwards' PRA, given the fact that he could do it all. 36.5. He had 48 PRA in that last game. This is what you can expect from Anthony Edwards. There is a world where he gets a regression in his points, right? He's not going to average 33 points in all these games. So he could see a regression in his points. The rebounds, the only way I could see a regression in his rebounds, well, there's a lot of ways, but the main way, if he sees a regression in his rebounds, is if the Phoenix Suns shoot the lights out. And there is a possibility because I expect their offense to improve. So that might limit his rebound opportunities, but I also expect him to play more minutes. This game should be closer. I'm hoping to see at least 40 minutes for Edwards in this game, which is 5 minutes more than he normally does see, which is going to give him more rebound chances. The assist prop, that's going to be impacted by a few things. Can the Timberwolves make shots? Can Rudy Gobert finish his lobs? Will the Phoenix Suns force the ball out of Anthony Edwards' hands? And I do like the play, to be honest. How does he get less assists? Well, he'll score a lot more. But the biggest one's obviously injury and foul trouble. And you can't necessarily factor those things into the bet unless the player you're betting on is extremely foul prone, right? So, yeah, I don't mind the PRA there for Anthony Edwards. I might have over-explained it, but yeah, I don't mind it. We'll see what I find when I line things up. We've got Karl Anthony Towns as well. His line is at 17.5, a fairly strong game. That's his strongest game he's had since he's come back from injury. 19 points. He only played 26 minutes. He shot 5 for 9 from the field, 1 from 2 from 3, but he made 8 free throws. So a very aggressive showing there from Karl Anthony Towns, getting to the line quite well. He's covered this line in 6 of his last 10, 4 out of his last 6 against the Phoenix Suns. Now, Karl Anthony Towns, one of those guys I do not like betting on. Positionally, he does have a good matchup, though. The Suns haven't been great defending power forward so far this year. If we think about who was defending Karl Anthony Towns a lot in that first game, it was Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant defended him almost half the time. Karl Anthony Towns shot 3 from 5 against him, 1 3-pointer. He got to the free throw line. He scored 8 points against Kevin Durant and was somewhat efficient. He had Royce O'Neal on him for a little bit as well, and he smoked him. Didn't miss a shot with Royce O'Neal defending him. He got to the free throw line a lot, scoring 6 points. So that's 14 of his 19 points already. And then the rest of his points was minimal minutes, mismatches against Yusuf Nurkic. So Kevin Durant, the primary defender here against Karl Anthony Towns, and Kat has got no problem scoring on Kevin Durant or Royce O'Neal. So matchup-wise, I think someone like Karl Anthony Towns probably has a bigger upside. You could argue that 33 points from Anthony Edwards could be the best scoring game that he has in this series because they had their best defenders on him. He did quite well. Whereas with Karl Anthony Towns, I don't think there's anybody on this Suns roster that could stop Karl Anthony Towns. The only person that can stop him is himself. So, yeah, I think there is tremendous upside here for Cat on his points prop. I'm going to do some research into him, though, to see what the coach has said about his minutes, because he only played 26 minutes, though. And that's where the upside is. If he can get up to 30 to 35 minutes, great opportunity to cover this line. So we'll see where we land on Cat. But let's talk about his assist prop. 3.5's the line. 3 of his last 6 against Phoenix. He had 4 assists in that last game. Not too many potential assists. And his last 10, he's hit in 5 of the last 10. So 3.5. It is plus money. I don't see a big upswing here in the assist opportunities because the way I look at it, I don't think the Phoenix Suns are going to be like, we need to play Karl Anthony Towns different, right? There's no headlines around Karl Anthony Towns smoking the Phoenix Suns. I think they'd be happy to let Kevin Durant defend him, for Karl Anthony Towns to, be aggressive if he wants to. I don't think there's much more they could do differently, to be honest, because Cat's almost a 7-footer, right? I think he's almost there, or he is one. Doesn't necessarily play like one, but there's no one else on this roster that can necessarily defend him with Rudy Gobert on the court as well. So I think they'll stick with the KD matchup. They won't make too many adjustments. I think this line is just about right. I do prefer the points line, if I'm being honest with you. I'm looking at his rebound line, though. 7.5 plus 120. Only had 7 rebounds in that last game against Phoenix. 3 of his last 6 games, he's cashed this in. He's gotten very close, but didn't get it done. I think the biggest concern here, it's really just minutes and opportunities, rebound chances. He had 9 rebound chances, averages 11.6 rebound chances here against Phoenix. So, yeah, I'm neither here nor there. I'm not leaning to the over or the under because the biggest challenge for me is the minutes, and I don't have an answer on whether Karl Anthony Towns is going to get more minutes or not. But if you do see a bet on Karl Anthony Towns points, I might have found something that tells me he's going to play more minutes. All right, let's have a look at Rudy Gobert. Now, Rudy Gobert, his points prop is at 13.5. He's cashed in 6 of his last 10 games. Scored 14 points in that last matchup against Phoenix. Looking at how he's gone against Phoenix in the past, 3 out of his last 8 games against the Suns. I really want to just pay attention to the last 4 games. This is when, I guess, KD, Bradley Beal signed up. So this is when things started to get different. First 2 games against Phoenix, he scored 4 points in both of those games. His last 2 games, 21 and 14. The differences that we can see. Clear uplift in his minutes more recently in those games against Phoenix Suns. Minutes are definitely up. Looking at field goals attempted, he only attempted 5 in those first 2 games. He followed that up with 9 and 6. So not only did he take more shots, he made them at a much higher percentage. And he also got to the free throw line. Didn't get to the line at all in those first 2 games. Then he got to the line 9 and 7 times, shooting 78 and 86%. So a very strong percentage there for Rudy Gobert. Now, given the strong percentages from the line, the somewhat lower field goal attempts, line at 13.5, it feels about right. If he's only going to get to shoot the ball 6 to 8 times, you better be expecting a high percentage here. So I'm going to have a quick look at Rudy, who defended him and whatnot. So Rudy obviously had Yusuf Nurkic defending him almost 70% of the time. He scored 9 points when defended by Yusuf Nurkic, and he shot 3 for 5 from the field, 3 from 3 from the free throw line. So, yeah, Yusuf Nurkic, as you expect, a little bit of Drew Eubanks defending him. But, yeah, I don't think I can't take Rudy's points prop after that. There's not enough evidence that tells me that he can do it again. One, he needs to shoot almost 70% from the field. He also needs to get the free throw line and shoot 80%. So, yeah, I'm not loving that for Rudy, but maybe his rebounds. His line's at 12.5. He had 16 boards against the Phoenix Suns. He's only cashed that in 2 of his last 8 games against Phoenix. He had 27 rebound chances, which is crazy. But I guess if you look at this, the Suns, they allow the fewest rebounds to centers on the year, and that was for a reason. Yusuf Nurkic. Now, in past games this year, the other 3 games against Phoenix, Rudy has struggled 8, 6, and 7 in that last game with 16 rebounds. Those potential rebounds a lot higher than what he was averaging against Phoenix throughout the year. And yes, he is playing more minutes, but we also saw the Phoenix Suns only score 95 points. So they shot the ball poorly. So I feel like his rebound chances and his rebounds made are somewhat exaggerated by both of those points. Like I've said before, I expect the Phoenix Suns to play better. And what that means is Rudy Gobert will probably get more minutes, though. but I do expect them to shoot a lot better, and I don't expect him to have as many rebound chances. In terms of his line at 12.5, I shan't be taking it. I feel like that's a little bit too high. But also keep this in mind. I said the same thing about Jarrett Allen after his first game against the Magic. What did he do when he backed it up? 19 rebounds or something crazy like that. So don't let me talk you off the cliff. Like if you're ready to jump and take the play on Rudy, you've got your own thought process and mindset towards it. Feel free to take a leap, my man, because I'm only right half the time, believe it or not. Those are my thoughts on Rudy. I think a lot of the other guys were not overly aroused by, or not yet anyway. I might touch them when I get back, but I do have to run, get to this game. So I'm going to pause my recording. For you, it's no wait at all. You probably have to wait 3 seconds, but I'll see you when I get back. Hopefully I'm in a good mood and I win this game. If not, you might see the worst side of me, but I'll catch y'all soon. And we are back. Oh, I'm in my mid-30s versus team, early 20s, ran us off the court, and I'm exhausted, but I'm ready to preview the rest of these games. What do we have? Naz Reid, candidate for 6 Man of the Year. Let's have a look at him. 11.5 points is his points line. Now, he's cashed this in 7 out of his last 10, had 12 points in that opening matchup against the Phoenix Suns. In head-to-head matchups, he's been pretty good, covering in 5 out of his last 7. Let's take a closer look at that last game, though. 12 points. He played only 19 minutes, took 10 shots. So in terms of field goal attempts, quite aggressive. He shot 4 for 10 from the field, 2 for 6 from downtown, and he did make 2 free throws. So I feel like this line is just about right, to be honest. I can't see him getting any more minutes. If anything, Karl-Anthony Towns, he should get more minutes himself, which could potentially take away from Naz Reid. Or we could see a bit more Naz Reid with Karl-Anthony Towns on the court. So I don't mind the line here for Naz Reid. I honestly don't hate it. I wouldn't take the under, and I'd lean to the over in this one. So, look, it's not one that I probably love, but I think it's worth investigating a little bit further. Jumping into his rebound line, 4.5. He's covered in 5 of his last 10. Only had 2 boards in that last game against Phoenix. Against Phoenix, he's covered in 3 out of his last 7. He's gone under in his last 2. Rebound chances quite low. Only 5 rebound chances in that last game in his 20-minute stint. So, yeah, not loving the rebound chances there. You'd like to see something a bit more consistent, or you need to know whether Naz Reid's going to get more game time, and that we do not. Let's have a look at Mike Conley. I did fade his assist prop, which he went over. I thought he'd go over in points, under an assist, and the opposite happened. Only scored 4 points in that last game against Phoenix. Has covered in 7 of his last 10, though. He's 4 points in 27 minutes. Shot the ball 12 times, so he's 2 for 12. Didn't shoot very well. Which is why he went under. And then looking at his assist prop, 5.5. He had 7 assists in that game. So, yeah, it sucked. But he took a lot of shots. I think the over could be there. Just looking at volume, if he's taking 12 shots and he only needs to score 12 points, definitely you could see it happen. So if we look on the season, for example, he averaged 11.3 points per game, and he averaged 8.9 shot attempts in order to score those. So in that last game, the volume was there, 12 shots, which is 3.5 more shots than his average. Unfortunately, he went 4 points under his points average. So if the volume's going to be there for Mike Conley, I honestly don't hate the points prop here for him. I don't, believe Anthony Edwards goes off for another 33. So he's one of the role players who could get the opportunity there to cover his lines. Let's jump into the next game, though. It is the Indiana Pacers versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis game time decision in this one, but I believe that is extremely unlikely. He's doubtful. So looks like he's going to miss this game. Might be there for game 3. So pretty much running the same lineups in this one. In this game, though, the Bucks 1-point favorites after destroying the Indiana Pacers in the first game. Quite an interesting one. So let's look at these Indiana Pacers. I'm questioning whether I run some of the plays back. So if you followed my last video where I previewed this game, I took Tyrese Halliburton over 19.5 points. Now, it was extremely disappointing. This is the reason why I took it. 5 consecutive games against the Bucks, he exceeded 20 points, and he exceeded it with ease. They don't defend point guards quite well. For some reason, first playoff game this year, he only scores 9 points. The issue was not his minutes. He played almost 38 minutes. He shot the ball only 7 times. He shot 57% from the field, 1 from 3 from deep, and he didn't get to the line. So I don't know why there was no aggressiveness into it. It's something that I'm going to investigate. I'm going to look at some articles, some interviews he may have done, to figure out why, because I think his points prop is a great look. It makes a lot of sense. And now in this game, it makes a lot of sense. Could there be a bounce back? So I'm going to have a quick look at the box score actually from that last game, Pacers versus the Bucks. Now having a look, so Patrick Beverley was the key defender here on Tyrese Halliburton. He was the defender on Tyrese Halliburton 48% of the time. When defended by Pat Beverley, Halliburton only scored 2 points. He was 1 from 3 from the field. So really lacked aggression, only had 1 assist as well. So yeah, quite interesting, the Pat Beverley effect. Maybe Russell Westbrook was wrong, but yeah, Halliburton just lacked aggressiveness. It didn't take that many shots. I'm looking at, well, he didn't attempt that many shots on anybody, to be honest. So only was it 9 attempts? 7 attempts. So question marks on that. So I'm going to definitely look at that because the line is still at 19.5 despite only scoring 19 points. So I'll dive into that a little bit more to figure out what had happened. Looking at his assist prop, that's at 10.5. Only had 8 assists in that last game. His line hasn't moved. It was 10.5 last time. What did we see? He still had 20 potential assists, so he was moving the rock like mad. And that's the most potential assists he's had in his last 10 games. Unfortunately, only had 8 assists. The Pacers only scoring 94 points. So really struggling across the park. Head-to-head matchups, he's covered in 3 out of his last 6. In previous games against them, though, he's had a lot higher in terms of the potential assists. That 20 assists is not that high in comparison to what he's done against Milwaukee in the past. But with 20 potential assists, you would assume he'd cover 10.5, and then he did not. Now, I wouldn't consider taking the over here, because if you're taking the over, you're going to assume that the Pacers are going to shoot a lot better, and we can't necessarily guarantee that. So he's not surrounded by a plethora of shooters. I think Pascal Siakam was the only player to really play well offensively for the Pacers, and a lot of the time he's going to create his own shot and he's going to get out in transition. So yeah, not loving the assist prop here for Tyrese Halliburton, but I am going to look into the points prop a little bit more. Let's have a look at Spicy P. His line is at 25.5, so it's definitely moved since the last game. It's gone up quite a bit. Open at 26.5, but it's been bet down. At one point, this was at 24.5. Now, he's got 36 points in that last game against Milwaukee. Head-to-head matchups, that's the first time he's played Milwaukee since he joined the Pacers. So let's dive into that last game. He played 40 minutes. This is Toronto Siakam playing 40-plus minutes. Shot the ball 25 times, making 15 shots. So ultra aggressive. Now, I wouldn't say to take the under on Pascal. The 25.5, it's the perfect line if Pascal Siakam's going to shoot the ball 25 times. If anything, it's too low. So the question is, does he shoot the ball that many times? That I'll need to look into. See, do Milwaukee need to make adjustments? They played extremely well. Maybe they let Siakam be their lone scorer. So I'm not too sure about that, but I'll look into it. Assists, though, 3.5's the line. He only had 2 assists in that last game. He's gone under this 8 consecutive games. He only had 6 potential assists in that one, and it makes sense. If you're shooting the ball 25 times, how are you supposed to get assists, especially if your teammates aren't knocking him down? So I think the only risk in taking the under for Pascal here at 3.5 is, what if the Bucks change the defense and they force Pascal Siakam to be not to be a playmaker, but to move that ball? Now, having a look at how and why he did so well. So Brook Lopez was the key defender on Pascal Siakam for the majority of the game, followed by Chris Middleton and Jay Crowder. He rarely saw any Bobby Portis in this matchup. So Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton were the key defenders here on Pascal Siakam, and they did a terrible job. Pascal scored 13 points, 6 from 11 when defended by Brook Lopez, and he shot 5 from 7 at 71% when defended by Chris Middleton. So, yeah, no one had a good job defending him. Everybody who defended Pascal Siakam got some buckets. So, yeah, there wasn't one player that held him under 15%, to be honest. So, Siakam, there's nobody out there that can defend him. And I think the only player on the roster that potentially could is Giannis. And Giannis ain't there. So, yeah, the Siakam points matchup, it could be there, or they could double him, right? There's no single man that can defend him. They might throw some doubles at him to move the ball out of his hand. I think that's the only risky with Pascal. Looking at his rebounds, the line's at 9.5. He had 13 boards in that last game. Diving in a little bit deeper, he had 19 rebound chances. And I swear, you're going to get a lot of rebound chances when your teammates are missing every single shot. So he had 5 offensive rebounds, 8 defensive rebounds. His line is at 9.5. It's a very high line. We haven't seen Pascal's line at 9.5 too often, but maybe if we have a look at Pascal Siakam in games where he's played at least 40 minutes this season, what do we see? Still, he's only covered this line 9 out of his last 10. He's only played 40+ minutes 5 times this year, and that was the first time he covered his rebounds line. So, yeah, I don't think there's enough sample size to give us a decent edge here on why he covers the 9.5. The 13 is nice, but that feels like I don't know if we can expect to continue to see that. So Siakam, it's more of a hold. Let's wait and see how he goes in this game. Miles Turner, he was one of the leans I had to go over his points prop. He got very close. 17 would have finished on the hook, but he's covered in 3 of his last 10, 5 of his last 9. So 3 straight games going under against the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, let's dive a little bit deeper into this. He still played only 32.5 minutes, so he didn't see an increase in his minutes despite the playoffs. Bobby Portis was the key defender, followed by Jay Crowder, a bit of Brook Lopez as well. So Bobby Portis did a bit more work here on Miles Turner. So it's quite interesting to see them switch it up and for Brook Lopez to take Pascal Siakam. And we saw, 17 shot attempts here from Miles Turner, which is wild. He only shot 5 from 17, so a very poor shooting night from Miles Turner. He shot 3 from 9, which is not great, 33%, but at the same time, he shoots 37% anyway against the Bucks. But what I do like about his points prop here is the aggressiveness. So there's a few trains of thought here. The line is only 1 point, so sports books probably expecting this game to be close. And if it is close, Miles Turner should get more runtime. Miles Turner was hyper aggressive in that first game, taking a lot of shots. He shot an extremely low percentage, 29% from the field, which is the lowest field goal percentage he's had against the Milwaukee Bucks in the last 2 years. Let's just look at his last 10 games. That 29% from the field is the lowest he shot in the last 10 games. So it's one of the worst shooting performances Miles Turner's put together for quite some time. He still scored 17 points though. So if we see an improvement in his efficiency, he can cover the 17.5, no sweat, right? And that's probably more assists for Tyrese Halliburton as well. So yeah, I'll look into that a little bit more. His rebound prop, 8.5. It's plus money. He had 8 boards in that last game against the Bucks. Hasn't rebounded well against the Bucks. He's only covered in 2 out of his last 9 games against them. And in his last 10 games, he's only covered 2 out of his last 10. Now, he only had 13 rebound chances in that last game against Milwaukee, which is not great. So the line's still at 8.5. It is plus money, though. If you're looking at the under, minus 125. He's gone under 8.5 rebounds on 72% of games this year. And he's gone under in 78% of games against the Bucks. So you can't help but lean to the under here. I think the main risk is what if he gets a lot more minutes. So he is capable of playing more minutes. 32 minutes. Like he's had games where he's played 37 minutes before against Milwaukee. That was recently. So, yeah, Miles Turner does have more gas, really. So I think this line is because he's probably predicted to play a lot more than 32. Well, maybe not a lot more, maybe 37 minutes. So I wouldn't take the under, even though the data is telling me to, because the data is not factoring in the extra runtime he's probably expected to get. Now, who else do we have in this game? I think someone like TJ McConnell could be a good look. He was ultra aggressive in that game, took a lot of shots. He did get, I think his line was 10.5. Only finished on 10 though. So he only played 18 minutes in that game, but he shot the ball 13 times. So super aggressive. 13 shot attempts in only 18 minutes. But look, that's what he does. He plays 19 minutes a game, takes 12 shots. So ultra aggressive. He only shot 38% from the field, and he has had a few games like that in the past. But for the most part, he's shooting 58% from the field in his last 10, and on the season 54%. So he shot poorly by his standards. Looking at his games against the Bucks, 5 out of his last 9, he's covered this line. Looking at his minutes, you can see these are all probably his bench rolls here, his last 6 games. And in this bench roll, he's only covered this line twice out of the last 6 games. So even though he is ultra aggressive, he shot the ball poorly. So he took more shots than you would expect him to take at those minutes. But yeah, just didn't shoot the ball well enough. So if you can predict him to stay that aggressive, he gets the same number of shots. I think the over is definitely worth it. I just don't know whether he's going to get the shots. Now, looking at his assist prop, 4.5 is the line. He's covered this in 6 of his last 9 against the Bucks. Looking at the last 6 games, because that's when he had a similar role on the bench, he's only covered in 3 out of those 6. In that last game against Milwaukee, 2 potential assists. Difficult to get potential assists if you're just jacking the ball up every time you're on there. I just realized McConnell took twice the amount of shots as Tyrese Halliburton, played half the fucking game. God, that pisses me off. So, yeah, I'm not feeling TJ McConnell in this one, but I got a lot of leans already in this game. Let's jump into these Milwaukee Bucks, starting with Dame time. So it was definitely Dame time. in the first half. So he smoked them in the first half, scored all 35 points in the first half, and then delivered nothing in the second half. Luckily, his points were not required. So 35 points, a very strong outing. When I was previewing this game last time, looking at his head-to-head numbers against the Pacers this year since he joined the Bucks, I was like, this guy sucks. Like, he struggles against the Pacers, right? His percentages were pretty poor. Look at that. 36% from the field. Like, he struggled. But the one concern I had, I didn't want to take his under because it's the playoffs. He might get more minutes, but also it's his games without Giannis. Looking at his games without Giannis this year, check this out. 9 games without Giannis, averaging 30 points a night, covering this line in 6 of his last 9. So his games without Giannis, he's performed very well, is what I'd say. So I wasn't willing to take the under. So I was quite surprised. He got absolutely hot and he scorched them. I think the key thing to consider here is, do you take his over again? Because the Pacers are going to be scheming like crazy to make sure that that doesn't happen. I'd probably lean to his here. The challenge in taking the under, he shot the ball 24 times in that game, and he missed every shot in the second half. So he shot 6 from 11 from deep, and the Pacers, one of the better teams defending three-pointers. They allow a lot of points at the rack, but I just wonder if they switch things up. So I'm not willing to take Dame's points over or under because he could scorch them with no Giannis, or the Pacers defensively and force Dame to be a playmaker. Now, looking at his assists, we can see he's covered this in 4 of his last 10. He only had 3 assists in that last game against Indiana, 11 potential assists, which is much lower than what he'd normally get, even though he was averaging 5 against them. 11 potential assists. If we look at his games without Giannis, what's his assist numbers look like? We've got, he's only covered in 3 out of his last 9. So his assist numbers actually don't go up without Giannis. They go down. So, yeah, I'd be quite hesitant to take the assist prop here as well for Dame. I could probably look at the under, right? The Pacers allow the fewest assists to point guards on the season. But if they switch the way they defend him and they blitz him more, that's going to open up some opportunities for Dame to get some assists, right? So I'm going to look into it anyway because the under 6.5 assists is a plus money play. And I just think common sense tells me that they can't get blown out again. I think the Pacers have to keep it a lot closer in this one. The Pacers are on the road, so it's not necessarily a must win, but surely they make some adjustments. They can't get smoked again. So maybe the under in points plus assists I could look at. I'm not too sure. But let's have a quick look at his rebounds. 4.5's the line. He's covered this in 6 of his last 10. Had 3 rebounds against the Pacers last time. And in head-to-head matchups, covering in 3 out of his last 5. He had 17 rebound chances in that game, which is huge. That's by far the most he's had in his last 10. Put it this way. He averages 8.6 rebound chances in his last 10. He had 17 rebound chances in that last game against Indiana, which just goes to highlight how bad their offense was. So they're probably playing at the same pace. They were just missing a ton of shots. So there was a lot of rebounds to be had. And yeah, I just feel like he's not going to get 17 rebound chances again. Not to say he can't get 6 rebounds, but I don't think those same volume of chances are going to be there for Dame. Have a look at Bobby Portis. I took his over. He fell just short. And I took his over because Bobby's games without Giannis were excellent and the Pacers don't defend power forwards too well, right? And we can see he's only covered in 2 of his last 9 against the Pacers. Take Giannis out of the equation. He scored 21 points against the Pacers last time without Giannis. This time without Giannis, he only scored 15. So let's dive in a little bit more. He only played 30 minutes in that game. He took 15 shots, which is right in line where I thought he would. He shot 47%, which is slightly higher. Let's look at his games this year, actually, without Giannis. 10 games without Giannis. He's covered this line in 6 of those 10. Let's have a look at it. So he's averaging 15 shot attempts without Giannis, which he did. But he's shooting 59% from the field without Giannis. He only shot 47% in this game against Indiana. And looking at 3-pointers, he was 0 for 2 in that game. He hit a 3 in most of the other games. So 1.8 3-pointers made on average without Giannis in the lineup. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm thinking of just running back Bobby Portis overs and Tyrese Halliburton overs as my 2 picks for this game, because I thought the research was sound last time. They didn't deliver. So I'll obviously research them a little bit more. But Bobby Portis, he took enough shots that I wanted him to make. He just didn't shoot them in a high enough percentage, unfortunately. Actually checked to see who was the key defender here on Bobby Portis, because if it was Miles Turner, it might explain a little bit why those shots were slightly off. So the main defender was actually Pascal Siakam. So Siakam defended Bobby Portis for the majority of the time. Bobby Portis scored 6 points when defended by Pascal Siakam, and he shot the ball 3 from 5. The only 2 shots he missed were 3-pointers. He didn't make a shot when he was defended by Miles Turner, 0 for 3. So there could be something in that. But yeah, Miles Turner didn't defend him for too long, only a couple of minutes. But yeah, I might run it back with Bobby Portis. We shall see. And looking at his rebound line, 10.5. Looking at his last 10 games, he had 11 rebounds against Indiana. I think the line was 10.5 in his last game. Some people could get it at 11.5. I saw them bet the under. And yeah, 11 rebounds off 14 rebound chances. And yeah, a lot of people bet the under for him because his rebound chances don't necessarily go up without Giannis. But his rebound line definitely goes up. So even to get 11 rebounds from 14 rebound chances is pretty absurd, to be honest. But yeah, I wouldn't be feeling the rebound prop there for Bobby Portis. Then we've got fish face Chris Middleton. Let's have a look at him. So his points line, 19.5. He did sneakily get some points off, 23 points against Indiana in that last game, covering in 4 of his last 10, 3 of his last 8 games against the Pacers. If we take a look at his games without Giannis, that was his only game without Giannis. If we look at games this year without Giannis, 4 of 8, didn't play heavy minutes. He's only played heavy minutes in 4 of those games. And in those 4 games, he covered this line in 3 out of the 4. So he played almost 35 minutes. He only shot the ball 14 times, though. Shot 9 from 14, so at only 14 attempts. I don't know if I could take his over. Got to the free throw line 4 times, though, which is good. But yeah, you'd really like to see a bit more aggressiveness out of Chris Middleton and get more shots up than 14, because I don't think you can bank on him shooting at 65% if he's going to cover this line. Looking at his assists, the line's at 5.5. He only had 4 assists against the Pacers, but leading into the playoffs, his assist numbers were great. He only had 7 potential assists in that game. So I guess it's difficult, right? A lot of his minutes were with Dame, and Dame's usage rate would have been through the roof given how well he was playing. I could probably see a bounce back game here for Chris Middleton, but at 5.5 at minus 130, I'm not feeling that. Looking at his line, he's covered in 4 of his last 10. He's covered in 3 of his last 8 against Indiana. Had 10 rebounds in that last game, but very similar to a stack of rebound chances. 15 rebound chances. It's the most rebound chances he's had in the last 10 games. The pace would have been high, but the Pacers were bricking everything, so there were a lot more rebounds available. So I wouldn't overreact to the rebounds prop here after one game. If the Pacers offense clicks into gear in the next one, a lot of these rebound chances are going to tank. So unless we see a little bit of consistency in it, I'm not sure if I can take that play. I'd like to see a bigger sample size of data before I take anything like that. And who else have we got in this game? We've got, I was going to look at Brook Lopez, but I think Pat Beverly. I think he's got some bigger potential across the board. Now, his points line, 6.5. He only scored 5 points in that last game against Indiana. So let's take a deeper look into that. He played 37 minutes, which is huge. He shot the ball only 5 times. He was 2 from 5, though. So I guess key focus for him, slowing down Halliburton, and I think he did a wonderful job at that. 2 out of 5 shots. So we don't like his points prop. He's in there for defense, right? If we look at his assist prop, that line's at 4.5. He had 8 assists against the Indiana Pacers, which is wild. He had 10 potential assists. So whoever the hell he was passing to was getting buckets. But we've seen Patrick Beverly do this before when he gets some big time minutes. So what did he get? 36 minutes in this game. If we look at this season where Pat Beverly plays at least 36 minutes, he's covered his assist line every time. Yes, he was on a different team. He was with Philly back in these days, in these games. 2 games with Milwaukee, 2 games with Philly where he plays 36 minutes, 7, 11, 5, and 8 assists, right? So if Pat Beverly is going to get the runtime, he'll deliver on the assist front. Even though his potential assists aren't necessarily that high, 9 and 10 in his last 2 games with Milwaukee, but he still covered the line. The other one I want to look at is his rebounds prop, because he had 7 rebounds against the Pacers. What I want to do is look at his games for 36 minutes this year to check out his board. So we know there'll be 4 games on offer. And in those 4 games, he had 8, 4, 5, and 7. But his rebound line's at 5.5. His rebound chances at 10.5. Honestly, don't hate it. I don't think that's too bad. I think the assist prop is value there for Patrick Beverly, assuming he's going to get the runtime. And I think he'll be on the court when Tyrese Halliburton's on the court. So Tyrese Halliburton played 37 minutes. Patrick Beverly played 37 minutes too. Let me just double check that to see how accurate my bullshit take is. So they were on the court at the same time 62% of the time. So Patrick Beverley not necessarily replicating Tyrese Halliburton, but he did spend the most minutes defending him by far. So I don't mind this for Pat Beverley. We could look at his assists in this game, and I'm not overreacting. Keep this in mind. I'm not overreacting to the one game. It's not the fact that he got 8 assists. It's the fact that I think he's going to get the minutes, and he's shown when he gets the minutes, he'll cover these assists. All right, wonderful. So I'm glad I looked at that. Let's have a quick look at Brook Lopez, and then we'll jump into the last game. It is almost midnight as I record this, so it's going to be a very late night for me. But I do this for you. What do we have? 13.5 points. He scored 11 points against the Pacers last time. 4 out of his last 10. 6 out of his last 9 games against Indiana. Now, out of curiosity, what's he like without Giannis? Covered in 1, and then he had 11 points in that last game. Last 10 games without Giannis, he's only covered in 2 of his last 10. All right. Let's look a little bit deeper into this game. He played 31.8 minutes against Indiana. So looking at his last 10, is this an improvement? Yeah, somewhat. It's about 5 extra minutes against Indiana. If you look at his field goal attempts, he only shot the ball 10 times. So that's not too much of an increase in what he'd normally do. 1 from 4 from 3, which is right in line with his average. So without Giannis, Brook Lopez not getting more opportunity than he otherwise would. And then looking at his rebound prop, not a massive rebounder, but the line's at 5.5. I'd probably look at the under, but yeah, 5.5 is nothing. He might be able to get that in the first quarter. So I'm not really feeling that, but I do have a lot of leans in this game from Hallie, Pascal, Miles Turner, Dame, Bobby Portis, and Patrick Beverley. So let's see what I can come up with. Let's jump into the last game. It's the game I'm most excited to talk through. It is the Dallas Mavericks versus the Los Angeles Clippers. Once again, Kawhi Leonard is a game time decision. I watched one of the Ty Lue interviews, and Kawhi's still not practicing. Well, he's practicing, but they're all non-contact. So I don't know how you could go from non-contact practice straight into an NBA playoff game. Yeah, they're going to make a call on it just before the game starts, but I'm going to go out there and assume that he's not going to play. They played very well without him in the first game. Why rush him back? That doesn't make sense to me. So I'm going to make the assumption here that he is not playing. And it worked for us last time. I think we cashed in all our bets on this Pacers game. Kyrie points, Russell Westbrook rebounds. So it was a pretty fruitful game, and hopefully we can deliver it on it once again. Now, how do I think this game goes? Well, Dallas, they're 2.5-point favorites despite blown out in that last game. The Mavericks, apparently their mindset switched when they saw that Kawhi wasn't playing in this game, but I was of the assumption he wasn't going to play. They were surprised when they saw him in street clothes, and I think that impacted their mentality. So they got off to a really slow start. They tied the franchise record for the lowest points in the second quarter. I think it was 8 points. So I think everybody's predicting the Mavericks play a lot better in this game. So if it's closer, we could see. Well, the thing is, it's not like we didn't see enough minutes from a lot of the key players. They still played a lot of the minutes. Dallas pushing hard to come back in the second half, and I think we saw a couple of good signs. So let's go through these Mavericks first, because it's really just a couple to talk through, and then we'll see what the Clippers lines looks like. So we've got Luka Doncic in this one, 33.5 points. He scored 33 points against the Clippers in that last game. 3 of his last 10 games, he's covered this, and 3 of his last 7. So he's gone under in 3 straight games against the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, he played 42 minutes in that last game. He shot the ball 26 times. He shot 42% from the field, slightly under what he normally does against the Clippers, but very much in line with his last 3. So the volume is there. The percentage is not. Looking at his threes, he shot 4 for 12, 33%. And once again, that's kind of in line with what he normally does. Free throws, only shot 8 attempts, so that's a little bit low, I would say. You would expect him to get to the line a little bit more, but believe it or not, that's actually in line with his averages. So I can't really find an edge in this game unless Luka takes over and he just shoots a higher percentage, because he can get hot, he can get streaky. And if Luka can do that, then yeah, he can definitely go over. But I feel like this line is just about right. I can't see an edge in taking the over or the under. Looking at his assists, though, this is an interesting one. He's covered 5 of his last 10 and only 1 of his last 7 against the Clippers. So 6 assists in that last game against the Clippers. He only had 11 potential assists, so it's not like his teammates weren't shooting very well. He only had 11 potential assists, so that's a little bit of a concern. looking at his last 10 games, he's averaging 17 potential assists in a lot of the games he's covered. Look at his potential assists. 17, 16, 18, 20, 26 potential assists, right? Now, up against the Clippers, for some reason, doesn't seem to have him. He had one game against the Clippers with 19 potential assists and he finished on 10. That last game, he finished on 11. So, yeah, I'd honestly look at the under here for Luka for assists. I don't like fading the Mavs. That's who I'm supporting at the moment. But yeah, this just makes sense. Unless Luka's going to get 15 to 20 potential assists in this game, I don't know how that happens because it's not like he got close to that in the last game and they just missed their shots. The potential assists were not there. So the Clippers, it really comes down to they're forcing the ball out of his hand early. They're not necessarily letting him create. So yeah, I don't like the over for Luka's assist, but I might look at the under. His rebounds could be a good play though. 9.5, it's plus 100. He's hit this in 7 out of his last 10. He's averaging 15.7 rebound chances in his last 10 games. Against the Clippers, 4 out of his last 7. Now, that last game, he had 19 rebound chances, and 12 of those were defensive rebounds, by the way. So only 1 offensive rebound. So it's not about how Dallas's offense was. 12 of those rebounds came off Clippers misses. Now, the Clippers smoked them early. Luka's their number 1 rebounder in Dallas. Probably not an ability, but definitely statistically. So I do like the over in his rebounds in this one to get 13. He had 13 in the last one of 19 rebound chances. We only need 10. And the games where he's gone under 14, 14, and 13 rebound chances. So I think the Mavs, they could improve defensively in this game to improve their chances of Luka getting some boards. Hopefully Zubac, he looked like Shaq in that last game. If they could potentially slow him down, there could be more rebound chances on offer here for Luka. If we just have a look, so he played, 42 minutes in that game. If we look at his season, where Luka's played at least minutes, he's covered this line in only 6 of 13. So it's not it's got nothing to do with his minutes played. It might be the matchup. One of those games was a Clippers game where he finished on 9. So, yeah, it's not necessarily minutes here. It really comes down to the rebound chances, and it doesn't come down to his minutes played. So he will get over 40 minutes, which is good, but that's not the key impact here. So I think we need to consider is Dallas going to defend well enough to allow Luka to get these rebound chances? And I think based off that first game, Dallas were not locked in. They gave up a lot of easy points. James Harden shot the ball a lot better than you him too. I think there is a good chance here for Luka to get more chances. So I'm going to take a look at that one. So at the moment, I've got no play on his points. I'm looking at probably an under in his assists and he's over in points. We could do a same game value play there if it all checks out, but I don't mind that. We've got Kyrie Irving. So I took him over 24.5 points. I also took him for over points plus 7 rebounds for the value play, which cast. That was plus 700. So that was excellent for me, and everything kind of went according to plan. So my whole thought process around Kyrie scoring this 31 points is pretty much this. He scored 27 and 26 points in his last 2 games against the Clippers, playing only 28 to 32 minutes. I projected him playing at least 36 to 38 minutes in this playoff game, and I thought he'll get a similar amount of opportunities at the very least. He actually shot the ball less, but he was highly efficient. So more game time. I thought he can cover this points line with ease. And I'm still of that mindset. Luka is still the number 1 option that they need to be wary of and look out for. So, yeah, Kyrie's points prop, the over, I still definitely like that because I remember all the research I had done for it last time. So we can look at the over here for Kyrie Irving because I like it. It's moved up by 1 point. Well, barely, but the odds are a lot better. So, yeah, and in some places you might even be able to find the 24.5, to be honest. Still be a little bit juiced. But, yeah, I like his over here, Kyrie Irving. His assist prop, 4.5. He only had 4 assists in that last game against the Clippers, 4 of his last 10, 1 of 4 against LA. He only had 8 potential assists, so the potential assists aren't there. I'd probably lean to the under in his potential assists. But at the same time, Dallas, you're probably expecting them to play a bit better in this game, so he could get more assists, right? So not going to take the under there. His rebound line's at 4.5. Now, I liked his rebound line. I ended up taking the 7, which is what drove the odds up, which is great. The recent form was excellent. Obviously, you can see that 5 of his last 10. but he rebounded well in his last few games against the Clippers. So what did he have? He had 11 rebound chances in that game. And I think the rebound chances definitely come with his minutes. So if we just want to have a look at his season, where he plays at least 38 minutes or 39 minutes, you see a massive jump. But let's just look at 38, for example. 12 out of 17 games, he's covered this rebound line when playing 38 minutes, averaging 5.6. If he gets 40 minutes, meaning there's no blowout in this game, he's cashed in 6 out of 6 games. And in these games, what are the rebound chances? Averaging 11.2. So all he needs is about 11 rebound chances, and Kyrie will cash the 5, and in some instances, he'll cash the 7. So I do like the over boards once again. I do think he'll probably get more game time. If the Mavs defense is even better than it was, he'll probably get more rebounds. So yeah, that's where my mind's at when it comes to Kyrie. So I like his points and I like his rebounds. And with Luka, I like his rebounds, don't like his assists. So just see. Hopefully I've read this game right. I'm going to probably do a couple of value plays in this. Who else do we have, though, for this Dallas team? Because everyone else sucked. We've got PJ Washington. His line's at 11.5. He scored 11 points in that last game against the Clippers. 37 minutes. 4 for 10, though. 2 from 7 from deep. But he does that all the time. So that's not a big difference in what PJ Washington typically does. I wonder if we look at... I'll have a quick look at the box score, actually. All right, analyzing the box score here and matchups and stuff like that. So having a look at PJ Washington. The person who defended PJ Washington was James Harden. So he's probably the worst defender on the Clippers. James Harden just chilling out. PJ Washington scored 5 points when defended by Harden, 2 from 4, 1 from 3 from deep. If we have a look at, I'm just out of curiosity, Kyrie Irving. So Kyrie Irving in that game saw a lot of Amir Coffey, Terrence Mann, and Paul George, and a little bit of Russell Westbrook. He was pretty much cooking all of them. Didn't have too many issues with any of those defenders. And for Luka saw a lot of Terrence Mann, Russell Westbrook, Zubac on the switch. So it makes me think, who the hell was Paul George defending in this game? Derrick Jones Jr.? Yeah. Paul George looks like he's defending a lot of Derrick Jones Jr. Kyrie, Derrick Jones Jr., and a little PJ Washington. So Paul George really just chilling. Terrence Mann, Amir Coffey, Russell Westbrook doing a lot of the dirty work. So yeah, PJ Washington, I'm not loving anything of his props. His rebounds line's at 5.5. He covered that. He had 7 boards in that last game though. 12 rebound chances. 6 of those are defensive. So yeah, I think the boards could be an offer here for Dallas because Lively and Gafford didn't rebound at all. Zubac was killing them. So there could be a good look for boards there for PJ Washington, but I don't absolutely love it. Looking at just minutes, really. So instead of clicking through every single player, I'll just let you know who got some decent runtime. Washington played 37. Kyrie and Luka obviously played a lot. Maxi Kleber found himself on the floor for 27 minutes in that game. Statistically, he didn't put up anything. Derek Lively got 19. Gafford 14. So Maxi Kleber got the most minutes offensively. Tim Hardaway Jr. got 15 minutes, but he only shot the ball 5 times, which is why his line is so low. I expect it to be the Kyrie and Luka show because a lot of these guys didn't shoot well and they didn't shoot often. So let's jump into these Los Angeles Clippers. And this box score will probably give me a quick guide. If we're just looking at the one game to see what happened, we already know who to really look through. So let's have a look at Zubac. So Zubac shot 10 from 17 from the field. He had 15 rebounds, 4 of them being offensive. So 20 points, 15 rebounds in that game. It was an absolute beast. Played 34 minutes, which is crazy. 17 shots. I think the big difference maker, if you look at 2023, you look at his games without Kawhi Leonard. He's covered this line in 8 of his last 13 games without Kawhi. That last game is where he took the most shot attempts, 33 minutes. Obviously, a big load offensively for Zubac. So, I don't know. It's one of those things. Do you run it back? Can they replicate that same type of success? Or are Dallas going to put some schemes in place to try to limit Zubac's effectiveness? Because he was absolutely killing him down there. And look, I don't have the answer for that. But look, a lot of these games this series, what happened in game 1, a lot of the time it happened in game 2. There hasn't been too many changes, to be honest. So the Zubac points play could be a good one. Looking at his rebound prop, that's at 10.5. So he had 15 boards last time, which is huge. But he's actually been rebounding well over his last 10. 6 of his last 10. Against Dallas, he's covered this line twice, though. Both of those games happen to be this season. And what happened in this game, if we look at the chances, he had 26 rebound chances, which is unbelievable. That's clearly the most in his last 10 by far, the most in his last 20 by far. Looking at the season, it's not the most he's had in the season. He's had 31 rebound chances against LA before, and he had 19 rebounds, 29 rebound chances against Memphis, and he had 20 rebounds. So those are the top three rebounding games that he's really been able to put together because of those chances. Now, the Mavericks, they didn't shoot the ball very well. They shot 38% from the field in this game. You would expect them to improve on that. They shot 30% from deep. If we do see some improvement from Dallas, these rebound chances shouldn't be there. I highly doubt that he gets 26 rebound chances. But keeping in mind, I said that about Jared Allen, and he got those rebound chances, right? So, yeah, look, it might be a popular play that you see on the boards. Zubac rebounds and points. I'm expecting some regression, but he probably still covers it, right? I'm leaning to the over in that, but yeah, I don't love it to death. Now let's look at James Harden. So this looked like Houston Rocket James Harden in this game. He's an absolute freak. What stat line did he put together? He had shit ton of points. He had 8 assists. I think, 26, 28 points or something like that. 28 points on the screen. What am I looking at? 28 points, but he only had 8 assists and 2 rebounds. He made 6 3-pointers, which is out of this world. A lot of step backs. He shot a pretty decent percentage at 47%. Let's take a look at it, right? In the last head-to-head matchups, he had gone under in all games against Dallas, right? 28 points. His line's only at 19.5, so we don't see an overreaction to his line. He is a real outlier. 39 minutes played in that game. If we project his games where he plays at least 39 minutes this season, James Harden has covered this line in 8 of 10 games. So if the minutes are definitely there, it looks like he's been cashing. If we look at the games without Kawhi Leonard, 3 out of his last 4 games where he plays at least 39 minutes, cashed, averaging 24.75 points per game, with an average of only 14.5 shot attempts, getting to the free throw line, and he's making his 3-pointers. So I'm not game enough to fade the points prop here for James Harden. I probably lean to the over, given these trends. I think, Dallas probably lock in more defensively, but James Harden, he played great. Got to give it to him. Looking at his assist prop, though, it was at 9.5 in that first game. It's now at 8.5 for this one. If we have a look at why, he only had 12 potential assists in that game, which is quite low. But he was shooting the ball a lot more. So I get it. I think this line is just about right. I'm not game enough to bet the under or the over. That's just my gut feel. Rebound chances, a little bit all over the place, but 12 rebound chances is quite low. But that doesn't mean he's going to keep having 12 rebound chances, right? If Dallas say, we're not letting James Harden hit step backs on us, or we're going to get the ball out of his hands, obviously those rebound chances increase a lot. If we have a look at who made some assists in that game, Westbrook had 4, Harden had 8, Paul George only had 3. So not too many assists occurred in that game, to be honest, for the Clippers. And it is the playoffs after all, right? So James Harden points, I don't mind. His assists, I don't want to play. His rebounds, he only had 2 rebounds in this game. Dallas were bricking everything, and he only had 4 rebound chances, which is interesting because James Harden was defending, who was he playing? Jones. He was defending Jones for a majority of his time on the court. And Jones not necessarily stretching the floor too well. He only took 1 3-pointer in that game. So, look, Harden probably chilling on defense, right? A little bit of LeBronis, just not actively chasing those boards. And he didn't need to. He was doing everything else. So, let's have a look at PG. His points prop, 24.5. He only scored 22 points against Dallas. Played 37 minutes. Paul George was 8 from 20 from the field, so he took a lot of shots. He was getting active. He shot 4 from 12 from deep, which isn't too bad, 33%. Had 6 rebounds and 3 assists. Now, what do we think? 22 points, lines at 24.5 against Dallas. He's only cashed this one of his last 6. Without Kawhi Leonard, he's gone under in both games against Dallas. Last 10 games without Kawhi Leonard, he's only covered this line in 3 out of his last 10. But, he took the most shots for the Clippers, 20 field goal attempts. It's difficult to take an under when somebody's shooting the ball that well, not that well, but that many times. Yeah, look, I'm not confident in taking Paul George. I just see the risk, and that risk is volume. That volume is going to be there. Is he going to shoot 4 from 12 from deep all the time? Probably not. But, yeah, I'm not game enough to take that play. If you look at his rebounds, though, that line's at 5.5. He did finish on 6 rebounds. He only had 10 rebound chances. So Zubac had the most chances by far and gobbled up everything. So yeah, I think this line's just right about spot on for Paul George. 5 out of his last 10, 4 of his last 6 against Dallas he's covered. He's covered quite well. I probably lean to the over at plus money, but yeah, I think there are better plays out there that you could take with confidence. What do you do minutes wise in this game? 37.5. If you want to look on the season where he plays at least 37 minutes, Paul George has covered this line in 14 of 24. So at 58% at plus money, that means if you had the same opportunity to bet this every single game at plus money, you'd hit at 58%. Hell yeah, you take that bet every single time. But we're into the playoffs now. I don't want to take those types of bets throughout the playoffs because season data is not too important. I'm just not going to touch it. Put it that way. If we look at Paul George, his assist prop, what do we see? 3.5 the line, plus money in head-to-head matchups. He's covered this in 4 out of his last 6. Only had 3 assists in that last game, as I mentioned. He had 7 potential assists in that game, which is pretty much in line with his average. So he was 1 assist under. He could have got it, but yeah, his assists are really up and down. So I haven't bet on Paul George's assists for a time, and I'm not going to start now in the playoffs. So, but yeah, I think those are all the key players that I think are worth looking at the moment. I do have to deep dive everything still to come up with my final picks. So we'll see where we land on that one. Once again, I appreciate all the wonderful comments and everything like that. You guys are really getting active. All those likes, all those comments, they really help get this video out there. I'm one of the smaller channels doing this, but I believe I'm the only one doing this. So I know a lot of you guys appreciate it. So wanted to remind you all that I'm hosting a watch party Friday night for those of you in the US, Saturday morning for me in Australia. And the game that I'm actually streaming is the Clippers versus the Mavs. So that's in a couple of days' time. If you're interested in joining that, I've got a link to Playback TV in the video description below. You can sign up to that. It's completely free. On the day, I'll be handing out 20 VIP passes, which means you get league pass for the day and you get to actually watch the game with me. You do more than just see my face. So it's completely free to sign up. So check that out. Video link in the description. But best of luck. Do your due diligence. Do some research. Stick to your bankroll management. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Up to the channel cause your boy's getting busy. Coming to you live from the west side of Sydney. We've got the free picks and the juice and the daily. It's all free, you don't even have to pay me.